and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. Join us for interviews, updates and chat with artists, influencers and those that manufacture the gear that we love. Hello and welcome to 9 to 42, the podcast from the guys from the Guitar Show UK. My fellow host Jace Hunt is with us. Hi Jace, how are you?
I'm all right, and like I was the first time you asked me when you forgot to press record.
Yes. So I've managed to get away with it for 20 seconds. This is the second take of this because I forgot to press record. And I'm going to get mercilessly ribbed for this for the remainder of the evening. But much to the amusement of our guest as well tonight, I'm hugely proud to have Steve Rothery from Marillion on the call tonight because I'm a long-term fan and a bit of a fanboy of Steve's. So Steve, how are you? It's lovely to have you here.
I'm good, thanks. Doing well. 4 months into lockdown, and I'm not bored yet. Being healthy, keeping myself busy, working on the Marillion album, working on my solo album, Revontulet, and just pottering around in the musician's equivalent of a man cave here.
And it is a fairly stunning man cave for that. I mean, obviously you're listening to this, so you can't see, but that is one hell of...
I'll take a picture.
Yeah, you can probably see loads of junk in the background. But if you could see what's in front of me here, it's like something from Mission Control. It's still in development, but I've got various sort of sequencers and synthesizers and a couple of racks of guitar gear, various amplifiers, a few guitars, and lots of toys, lots of flashing, blinking lights.
Is that a Silver Jubilee behind you? Is that what the cab I can see?
It'll be a Silver Jubilee cab probably. But I actually sold the amp about, a year or so ago. But there is a Marshall there, but you probably can't see because it's out of shot, which is an old, I think an early 80s or late 70s Marshall, which is the favourite of the Marshalls that I had. I've got a Friedman amp here. I've got my pitcher, which is a bit like a Dumble. I've got one of my Groove Tube setups with a Dual 75 power amp and a Trio preamp.
Is that an AC30 in the background?
Yeah, it's one of the reissue AC30s with a cabinet underneath with some Celestine blues in.
Very nice.
And sitting on top is one of those Iron Man attenuators, which I'm going to plug into it because that's the only thing about the AC30. To get it sounding good, you're going to kill yourself, really.
Yeah.
So I've used different attenuators on it in the past, but that's supposed to be the best sounding one. So, and I've got the UAD aux, which I use as well. Yeah. So it's
I'm quite interested in the aux. I've heard really good things. I'm also looking at the is it the Captor X, which is the new one on the market, which is about a third of the price of the aux, but apparently does the same thing.
I've used one of the two notes before, which was kind of okay, but I've got my main recording setup. I've got a Roya ribbon and a 57 on one of the speakers on the Jubilee cab, but I've also got a stereo feed from the aux. And when I've been recording recently, there's nothing much to choose between the two. And obviously, if you're using the aux, then you've got no problems with noise levels, and you can actually EQ something as you hear it, as opposed to trying to compensate for what's happening in the room.
I did actually, for the first time ever at NAMM, and I've been to NAMM, 20 times. I actually sat this year and watched a demo of the aux, and just sat there like a punter watching it. I mean, normally I'm just bouncing from meeting to meeting, but it was utterly fascinating.
Yeah, I think it's really good. I think there's a musicality to a lot of what they do, their plugins and their kind of know-how. I think they've kind of pretty much nailed it in terms of, I've got a camper set up there as well. That what can you say about that? It sounds great. But if I was recording, I would prefer to use a real amp. Although I haven't profiled my amps with it yet. But in a live situation where you're flying in for a gig, that is where it really comes into its own. If you can't take your full rig and your pedal board just having something that you can carry on the plane and set up through any 4x12 or whatever is really pretty special.
Because you've always incorporated a lot of tech into your setup, haven't you? It's not. I mean, this is. It would be fair to say you've never been one amp, one pedal.
No, from our second album, Fugazi, back in '84, I was using a 2 amp setup, using like a Marshall for the grungy power chord stuff, and then a Roland JC 120 for all the clean stuff and all the solo stuff. And I kind of used that setup pretty much up until about 98, 99, when I started using the Groove Tube stuff with my Blade guitars, and that kind of became a different chapter. But the JC is a fantastic sound. Nothing sounds like a JC 120. And if you use the right guitar and the right pedals with it, it's got a timeless chiming quality to it that is quite special.
And you've used guitar synths and other such things over the years as well, haven't you?
Yeah, I used a Roland guitar synth system on Assassin, on Fugazi, and on Misplaced Childhood, and that kind of worked well. I mean, it had its limitations in terms of like 2 different patches and stuff, but in a way, I kind of got into using MIDI guitars after that, and none of them really worked in the same way. You couldn't just play it as an instrument. You had to, make allowances for latency and tracking issues. So yeah, it's still probably my favorite is that original GR505, I think it was, and the floor controller, little blue unit.
Do you still have that?
No, again, I sold it. One of those periods of time when I was skint. After we got dropped by EMI, when we had the 3 albums on the independent label, a few of my guitars unfortunately had to go. But I have actually just bought one of the guitars in the States. A friend of mine's bringing it back from the States for me, but I don't have the synth unit. I might pick one up.
I used to have a lockup with a band in the early 90s that were probably Birmingham's answer to Marillion, called Arc, I think.
Okay, I've heard of them, yeah.
And they ripped off pretty much everything about Marillion. The lead singer used to wear a bit of that face paint, not in a Kiss way, but
right.
So that's like Fish did for a while.
Yeah.
And their guitarist had one of those guitars as well. Clearly, I mean,
right.
Everything about them was just ripped off from what you were doing.
Well, inspired by.
Yeah, but that's okay because we shared a lock up them, and we pretty much ripped off the Dogs D'Amour, Guns N' Roses, and everything else at the same time as well. So
yeah, everyone's got influences. The thing is to have enough different kinds of influences so it all mixes together to create something unique, really.
And you said you've been working on the Marillion album and your solo album while you've been in lockdown. Now, I guess. I mean, I know a little bit about how you guys work, but you jam a lot, don't you? You that's how you kind of start to piece an album together.
Yeah, and we were doing that up until lockdown. Around when we were around and rehearsals for tours, etc. So we got a lot of ideas already. Then obviously lockdown happened, and I'm sort of shielding. So I haven't actually worked at the studio. I'm going to go there for the first time in about 3 weeks' time. So hopefully, if the rest of the band make it back from Spain or Brazil or wherever else they are at the moment, we'll all be in the same room together for the first time in probably 5 months.
And if I'm right, as part of that process, you effectively capture everything you jam, don't you? And then review the things that are interesting.
Yeah, it's not how we've always written, but it's sort of a way of working we kind of gravitated towards, I suppose, after we stopped working with Dave Meegan. And maybe it was a way of avoiding arguments. I don't know. Yeah, it's like you have 5 people, you have 5 opinions about what constitutes good. And it's fine if you've got a producer who will say, yeah, this is what you should be doing. But I think in the early days with Mike, he was a bit wary of doing that with us. So we just kind of jammed, and then eventually he helped us put together the tracks that became Somewhere Else. But we produced albums ourselves, and sometimes that worked, and sometimes it was a slow, long, painful process, and we did argue. So that's why having a producer as a referee is a good idea.
And your current producer, Mike Hunter, you've worked with. What will this be? Album number 5 or number 6?
He did some mixing on Marbles, but then he's produced every album since.
And has it? So, do you think it's made a difference with him being the longer he's around? Is it easier for him to kind of not stamp his authority, but is he a little bit more forward in his opinion now and sort of saying, actually, no,
Yeah, no, he has to take a lot of the credit for how the albums turn out, really. I mean, in terms of arrangement ideas as much as anything else. But, he's an incredibly talented guy. He's got a degree in classical arranging. Some of the things on the last album wouldn't exist without Mike's input.
And an Everton fan to boot.
Well, yes.
It seems to be the thing I always end up talking to him about. So obviously, you've been able to work on Marillion in the background, but you've been working on a solo project at the same time.
Yeah, I had this idea a couple of years ago to do a space-themed instrumental album. It's not really a sequel to my last album, the Ghosts of Pripyat, which was kind of like a band album, really, even though Dave Foster and myself wrote the music. With this, I wanted something with a slightly different identity, so I did some writing with Ricardo Romano, the keyboard player in my solo band, with the idea of creating something a bit more sort of cinematic. And I released the first track last year, and I just about finished the second track. So another 5 or 6 to go, and my plan is to launch a crowdfunding campaign for it at the end of September, and then it will be released sometime next year, whenever it makes the most sense, really, so it doesn't clash with the Marillion album. And hopefully, if things have eased at that time, so I can actually do some promotion for it. And it's going to come out on Inside Out, which is part of Sony, at some point.
Your previous solo album's not that long ago, is it? I mean, how many years in between?
Yeah, it's 6 years now, actually. 2000.
Oh, is it 6?
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, it's been a while, but then again, we've been very busy with Marillion. Really, it's not like we sit around twiddling our thumbs.
Well, no, because you've all got fairly vibrant thing. Well, you've all seem to have things going on outside of the band as well.
Yeah, I play with various people. Played with my friend Gabriel Aguido's album. I did some recording with Thorsten from Tangerine Dream for a project that we're doing together, which sounds great. So I like to keep myself busy, you could say. I'm never bored.
Apart from maybe during lockdown.
Yeah, not even that. I mean, you've got Netflix and Amazon Prime,
Well, actually, in which case, as you've mentioned it, let's go there. So, best thing you've watched through lockdown on either Netflix or what's the best thing you've binge watched?
Well, it's the thing, most of the stuff I've already watched, but we caught up on Vikings, which I really like. The Last Kingdom. I don't know. I mean, probably The Expanse. I don't know if that was before lockdown started, but my wife had not seen that, so we watched that. Just about to start watching, is it Dark or The Dark? The German series, which I've heard great things about. So, the thing is, I'm kind of usually in my studio working until about 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. So it doesn't leave much time to watch anything, really. You kind of go in and, have a coffee or whatever and watch TV for about an hour and a half. And then that's the end of the day. But,
so you've not had a cheeky day where you've watched an episode at 9 o'clock and then in the morning and found yourself still there at 3:30 in the afternoon.
No, I've got too much to do, really, and I think I'm still so excited about music that that's kind of that's my pleasure as well as my job, really, which I suppose is rare that you can enjoy doing your job so much.
It's just me then, isn't it? I feel really guilty now.
Yeah, it's just you.
It's just me.
Yeah, it
Right,
is
okay.
just you. I've been working my
Right.
arse off since lockdown.
Right, right, okay. It is just me then. I really enjoyed. I don't know if you've seen this. This is an iPlayer one. Devs, which was this kind of dystopian drama that was from Alex Garland, who's the guy who wrote the Beach, isn't he?
Yeah.
And that was, and it's got. I was attracted to it because it's got the guy in it. Nick Offerman, who played Ron Swanson in Parks and Recreation, and I'm a huge fan of Parks and Recreation.
Yeah, me
and
too. It's great. It's really funny.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think Ron Swanson is just the coolest person on the planet.
Definitely.
So he's in this thing, and it's a sci-fi-ish thing, but it's weird. But it was really, it was confusing, and it was beautiful, and it was bonkers, and yeah. So if you haven't seen Devs.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Try and grab Devs before, and I think it's only 6 episodes, so
right.
It's not ridiculous, but yeah, Devs is that was my big one from lockdown. But there we
Excellent.
go. But there we go.
Yeah.
I suppose the obvious question really is, how do you survive 40 plus years in the same band?
I suppose it's different things. It's been in a band with the right people. No one you want to murder, at least no more than once a week. Other than that, it's having the freedom to make the music that you love, and 99.99% of our career we've pretty much done what the hell we wanted, and the record company's taken it, and the fans have taken it, and that incredible freedom. Means that you don't get bored at work, really. You don't feel like you're writing to a formula. You can take chances with every record and keep it fresh and interesting. And yeah, we have the best fan base in the world. Really, we really do.
You really do.
Yeah.
It's the whole Kickstarter, crowdfunding thing was kind of started by you, wasn't it? Which is a remarkable, given that you were so far ahead of the industry. I mean, when was that first crowdfunding? Early mid-90s?
The first thing we did was the American Tour Fund, and that was 97. Then crowdfunding Arachnophobia was 99. But it might have been 98 when we actually emailed the fans. And the last album on Castle was Marillion.com, which was obviously pushing our website. So we were ahead of the curve when it came to the internet and how it could really be part of a band's survival, really, and creating this global network and community of fans.
Which I suppose kind of leads on to the Centre Parks bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, the conventions. Yeah,
the conventions. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the very first one we did, we were down at Sil Wilcox, the Stranglers managers, had a place just outside of Bath, rehearsal rooms, and a recording studio, actually, where the Wurzels were working, funnily enough, when we were in there, right? You're out there, Ant. We were there
just having a mouthful of beer.
Yeah, painting marvels. So you can imagine that was quite a surreal experience. But anyway, Sil managed to strangle us, and they did one of these fan club type events at Pontins, and he said that would be a great idea for you guys. If you like, I'll run it for you. I'll set it up. So we did. We had the dubious pleasure of playing at Pontins, only once, mind you. Our fans still talk about it with kind of looks of horror on their faces. But we then graduated to Butlins for several conventions in the UK, which was a step up. And then eventually we made the giant leap up to Centre Parks in the Netherlands. So that kind of became the flagship event. And it's kind of grown over the years. We've done conventions in Montreal, one in Chile, one in Portugal. Where else? Well, I think that's it. In the UK, of course. And we're looking at doing a couple of other places when we eventually do the next lot, which was supposed to be next year, but which will now be 2022.
So I I've never been on one of these fan conventions. I have several times contemplated going on the Kiss cruise. The family don't want to come with me, and it does cost an absolute fortune. And I just wondered, what's it like from the artist's point of view? Are you kind of like stalked around Centre Parks?
Not at all. No, they're nicest people you could imagine. It's 3,000 of your most diehard fans from around the world. And, occasionally you stop and sign autographs and stuff, or people just say hi. I think that it's kind of people's enthusiasm seems to be building, though. The last time we did it, I traditionally got in, there's a couple of bars there that the fans go in afterwards and do like rock karaoke and various things. And I normally go in and meet some of my friends there and have a drink with them. But the last time I went, I couldn't even get in the door. It was just like... kind of, which was, it's nice in a way. It does get a bit exhausting if you just played for 2.5 hours to be stood there for another hour, signing autographs and taking selfies with people. But there's worse ways to make a living.
Yeah, so here's and Centre Parks isn't the most uncomfortable holiday park either, is it? I mean, it's quite
no. I mean, the cottages we're in are quite comfortable.
I bet you get the nice cottages, don't you, that I can't afford. Yeah, they've got the saunas built into them, all kinds of things.
Yeah, on the beach. Yeah.
Fabulous.
Though, I mean, having been to the UK ones, I've not been to one of the ones abroad, but I've having been to the UK ones. There's also a lot of work involved in the fact that you play 3 different sets over 3 nights, don't you?
Yeah, and they swap the band things in the Netherlands and various other things. Yeah, you can guarantee that it's probably 8, maybe even 9 hours worth of music you have to try and hold in your brain, and probably, 30 or 40 guitar solos that you're expected to play note perfectly.
Of course.
And of course, you quite often you choose the most obscure songs, some of which you've never played live before, or if you played once 10, 15 years ago. So trying to commit all that to memory and then trying to keep it in your brain without it dribbling out your ears is quite a challenge.
The problem with having 3,000 diehard fans is we do all know when you play something that we've never heard before.
Yeah, well, there's one of the convention DVDs where we play No One Can, and I just crash and burn during the solo. And, I've played it every other time we've played the song, however many thousand times, I've played it perfectly. All the times in the rehearsals, I played it perfectly. All the sound checks, I played it perfectly. But, like I say, when you've got that much music you're trying to hold in your head, it just takes that little moment of doubt, and that little voice saying, "You're going to mess this up," Yeah, shut up, And lo and behold, you have something that's pretty ugly.
I'm like that every time I have to play a guitar solo. I was going to play rhythm all night. Comes to a guitar solo, and there's just like someone in me again. You're going to mess it up. You're going to mess it up, and I invariably do.
Yeah, I think sometimes it's like turning off that little voice. Really, it's whatever it takes to blank that out, because it's like it, your brain knows it, your fingers know it, and it's a conscious part of your brain that sticks the spanner in the works. So it's kind of just telling that where to go, really, for long enough to get through it.
I suppose the only thing you've got to fall back on is the fact that Mark's keyboard rig will probably fall over within 30 seconds of you doing something wrong. So you'll probably,
Yeah, I mean, that's more than a 50-50 chance sometimes.
It's a little bit of an open joke.
It's been a lot better recently. But it was for a long time. It was like, how many songs are we going to get through before the keyboards crash? But anyway.
Did used to happen fairly regularly.
Yeah.
That's but I mean that is the one thing about, I guess, a fan base because I mean it is a bit like Alcoholics Anonymous. You do feel like you're standing in a room going, well, hi, my name's Anthony and I'm a Marillion fan. But when you're in part of that crowd, everybody is A, lovely, but B, so passionate about it.
Yeah.
It is like nothing else. I mean, I agree with you. I've not met fans of other bands that are the same as Marillion fans. It's
No, you can see that on the Royal Albert Hall DVD and, on the clips that are on YouTube. It's just the response of our audience. It's just phenomenal. It's like the passion and the energy that they give you. and the love, really, it's just, it's staggering. And it's the same everywhere around the world. That's the thing, you go to South America or Mexico, there'll be guys in their 30s and 40s that, they're watching the concert with tears streaming down their faces because they're so emotionally invested in the music and the songs. It's an incredible thing that music can be so powerful and can resonate at such a deep level. Really.
There was a moment at one, and I think if I'm right, it was one of the UK fan convention shows where a group of people, I don't know who it was, had organised lights, hadn't they? They'd organised like finger lights for people.
That's correct. Yeah, that was Tony Firminger who did that for the Leicester Marillion weekend for the first time. It secretly, at the end of Go, everyone pulled them out on cue and lit them up, and it was the most incredible experience that we replicated for the Royal Albert Hall.
For the Royal Albert Hall.
But just amazing. Yeah.
I mean, I was in the audience for that, and I didn't know what was happening. I had no clue at all. And there was this point at the end of there's a lovely outro at the end of this song, and literally the entire audience just lit up.
Yeah,
they just all activated these little. They were like rings, weren't they? Like little ring things that
kind of multicolored sort of.
Yeah. And I assumed I'd missed something. I assumed it was something that everybody knew about and that the band knew about. And everything.
They did,
it
mate.
actually
It's a
was
club.
the first night of that night.
It's the Don't Tell Ant Club. Everybody else is a member.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's a few of those. There's one of those in my house. But no, it's things like that are just so unique. Those little moments, and I think the way that Marillion fans communicate with each other, and it is an extended family. They all, you go to particularly convention shows, and you go and you just see all these people that's the only thing they've got in common, yet they've become lifelong friends.
Oh yeah, people meet, get married, like I say, become lifelong friends, and form incredibly tight friendships.
It's like one in every 10 of their children called Kaylee.
I don't think so much of those people. There's some of them maybe, but there are a lot of Kayleys around though.
Yeah. There are a lot of Kayleys around.
There are, yes.
Yeah.
I heard somewhere, I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that was a name that you'd made up that didn't exist before then. Is that right?
It was the names of Fisher's ex-girlfriend, whose name was Kay, and her last name was Lee. So Kaylee was
right.
the
I
name
see.
that became a girl's name.
And the spelling's unique, I think. I think the spelling's unique from there, isn't it? So everybody you see who's with it spelt that way.
But yeah, she was kind of Fisher's true love, really, I think, and it was his way of apologizing to her for being such a tool.
I do remember the Top of the Pops performance. Was that the one where Fish had lost his voice and he kind of had all the lyrics written on a flip
That was
chart?
Lavender.
Oh, was that Lavender, was it?
I think. I don't know. They all blur together. My memories of Top of the Pops, and we did it maybe a dozen or so times. It's just like when we did things like Punch and Judy and seeing all these young kids trying to dance to what we did and bemused expressions on their faces. Like, and it was all very smashing and nicey or whatever it is. It was very much like that.
Yeah, when you think back now, they always kind of hone in one sort of like rock band with, a load of pap, really, wasn't it? I would imagine Sunita was on just before you or just after you or something.
Yeah. No, it was very strange, very surreal. I mean, then going up to the BBC bar afterwards, and you'd bump into Lemmy. It's just, quite a strange experience.
And am I right in saying that around about that time you were also... were you one of the bands on the Young One?
I think, Neil said, why don't you play some good music like Hawkwind or Marillion, I think.
Right, but you were never one of the bands they cut away to.
We never played on it.
Right, okay. I had it in my head that you... But I was like everyone at the point in time watching the young ones because I'd been expressly told I couldn't watch it.
Of course, yeah.
So-
No better reason to watch something.
Yeah.
Because at the age of 11, it's the best swearing on TV.
Yeah.
I mean, I know by today's standards it's incredibly tame, but
It is,
back then.
But back then, yeah, it was very cutting edge.
So I turn to a slightly more serious topic, I guess. There's been lots in the press, and we've talked about it a bit on the podcast about the effect of COVID on live music, and more importantly, that for so many people now, live music is one of it is the primary income stream. Because obviously, the money from the ticket sales plus the money from the merch and all those kind of things, you're not making as much money from recorded music. And I know it's different from Marillion because Marillion still managed to sell a lot of product, which is great. But for a lot of bands, that's not happening. And the Marillion team is also very much a family. So you've worked with a group of people who you tour with and who run help run the Racket Club. How is everything with the group? Because I mean, I've ended up getting to know, the guitar techs and and Phil who does front of house and
Yeah, I think it depends. Most of them are managing to keep busy doing other bits and pieces. I mean, Phil, our sound guy, mixed the sound for my Steve Rothery band DVD that will be coming out in the next few months. But other than that, I don't think he's done that much. Just kind of tried not to go crazy. No, it's a tough time, and things aren't going to change that quickly, I don't think, until there's a vaccine. This whole idea of having venues a quarter full and social distancing, it's not really workable.
No.
I mean, the whole thing about the driving concerts, again, I was speaking to my friend Thorsten from Tangerine Dream, and he'd just done one of those in Germany. And he said the car furthest away from the stage was 1 kilometre away. Everyone's listening on their radio in their car. But I mean, yeah, that's not going to a concert, is it?
No. I mean, they've cancelled all the ones in the UK now, haven't they?
Yeah.
And whilst Live Nation sent an email that said, "Oh, it's because we don't know what's going to happen," blah blah blah. I actually think it's because they weren't selling that many tickets.
No,
really.
I don't think there was that much interest. It was announced too soon. I mean, if it was next spring, then they might have made it work. I mean, I'm a bit dubious of some of these big tours that have been put back from the end of this year till early next year. I think that's too soon. I think autumn of next year is the only time you could really hope that things will have progressed far enough with a vaccine and with all the other factors to make that possible. And of course, we've got Brexit to worry about. If the world pandemic wasn't bad enough, we then have the nightmare that could be touring in Europe post Brexit.
Yes, I'm not looking forward to that. It's it's one of the things because I teach at BIM in Birmingham.
Oh, right.
And it's one of the things that we've had to kind of get the students used to. They've never I'm old enough that I can remember before this freedom of movement and freedom of goods and everything, and trying to explain to them that you could potentially need just one document to get you into Europe, or you could need one for France, Spain, Portugal, Germany, and the old days of when you had to, you couldn't go through France, nip into Switzerland, and then into Germany.
Oh no, you couldn't go anywhere near Switzerland, really. Yeah. I mean, you have to pay import duty on the T-shirts you take into the country, regardless of what you sell, or merch generally in Switzerland. It was always a nightmare when touring across Europe. So it's just no way of knowing. And I suppose it's down to how difficult they want to make life for us as well. And you couldn't really blame them for making life as difficult as possible, given the circumstances. Maybe that's the thing. We'd all tour with campers, and you just hire your camper in each territory and turn up with your guitar. I mean, that's about the only way I could see it being feasible.
And you get your T-shirts printed in Switzerland.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. As much as it's a nice place to visit, I wouldn't lose any sleep if I didn't tour Switzerland again.
Isn't that where your guitar's made, though? No, it's not made there. It's made in Japan, but
no, the company's based there. But the parts are. I mean, especially my original ones, they're all made in Japan. But yeah, no, so that's just a big question mark on top of the pandemic question mark, really. So,
Hey,
hey,
Well, there's not a lot of love for Brexit round any of this call, I don't think. I think the number of times Jason and I have had quite, arguments, not arguments about
no,
it, but
because we agree.
We agree, yeah. I think it's an act of absolute lunacy, but anyway.
yeah,
We'll worry about the one thing that we've got in front of us before we start to worry about the huge behemoth that's waiting behind it.
Let's worry about not dying first, and then we can worry about how the hell we're going to manage the tour.
Yes, once we've not died, let's worry about how we're going to live.
Yeah,
It makes some kind of sense. So, Jason, you had a question about Carnival of Souls, didn't you?
Oh yeah, sorry. And this is because I've already mentioned them once that I'm a big Kiss fan. So you released Carnival of Souls in 1996, and so did Kiss release Carnival of Souls in 1996. And I just wondered what had inspired the name, and was it something that was floating around in the ether at the same time?
I think actually I announced it before Kiss, but it was from. It's one of those things where you're trying to find names for things, like names for bands or names for albums, and it was a film that released. I think it was done if it was a horror film. So it was in like a film guide book. I mean, The Wishing Tree was as well. That's where that came from. So yeah, you just try and find something that's not been done to death.
And for those who don't know, that was a band. So the Wishing Tree was the band, wasn't it? And that was with a vocalist called Hannah.
That's right, Hannah Stobart. We did 2 albums. We did Carnival of Souls and then Astara. We had a lot of interest in various parts of the world. I mean, our Japanese label wanted to fly to Japan, but I couldn't because my commitments with Marillion at the time. We did a lot of major sort of TVs in Italy. Unfortunately, it was one of those things that didn't resonate maybe with all the Marillion fans or even any of the Marillion fans. Well, no, it was one of those things where the people who heard the albums absolutely loved them, but unfortunately, not many people did. But it's great.
If my earphone cable would allow me to do it, I would get them both off the shelf because I am a fan. I have them both, and I am a fan. So
well, I'm proud of them both. Really, it was. Both of them, well, most of them recorded in this very room. But yeah, a great experience. And Hannah's, she's part of the family, really. So we see her and the drummer Paul, her husband, probably twice a year usually. And at some point, we might do a third album. We were talking about doing it about 5-6 years ago, and then they had a child, which has obviously taken up all their time since. But maybe at some point in the future we'll do something else.
Because I thought certainly when I listened to the first one, there was little bits of All About Eve in there, and I could trace things like that in there. But then, of course, I then heard some Mostly Autumn after that, and then almost did a link back the other way, and thought, well, there's strains of bits of Mostly Autumn in there, and they're very, very interesting albums. Very interesting albums.
Yeah, no, I'm proud of them both.
I got a question while we're talking about not Marillion stuff, because you did a book, didn't you? Postcards from the Road.
Yes,
and I love photographic books like that. I've just ordered what's it called? Explosions in the Canyons, I think, which is a kind of fly on the wall documentary of Eddie Van Halen recording at his 5150 studio. I've got a Ryan Adams photo book from On the Road that was taken by I think the bass player took all the pictures, and I've got a Black Crowes one where the bass player took all the pictures and stuff like that. So I'm kind of fascinated by On the Road sort of like documentary books sort of thing.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it was, I always had this love of photography, and I had a camera with me, so it was like the natural thing for me to do. I mean, of course, these days, everyone's just doing it on their iPhones.
It's not the same, though, is it?
No, it's not the same. Although there's certain shots you can do on an iPhone easier than you can do on a conventional camera. But yeah, some of the other shots, with anything with a telephoto lens or in low light, or some of the stuff that I like to do is like in digital infrared. Then yeah, you're running to the limitations of using a camera phone. But yeah, I don't do as much photography these days, unfortunately. But I think I've taken so many photos of the band over the years. You get to a point and you get to an age where people don't want to see how they look like anymore. They'd rather remember how they looked 10 years ago than, to be confronted with the stark truth of the fact that we all get old, and you can't look in your 20s or 30s or even 40s forever.
Oh, I don't know though. I mean, I think some artists own aging quite well.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's surgery, sometimes it's blood transplants. But yeah, I think we're doing pretty well. For a band that's kind of members of most of us are in our 60s now. So.
Are you really?
Yeah. I turned 60.
I suppose you would be if you've been going for 40 odd years. But,
yeah, 19 when I joined Marillion. So yeah.
Wow, you look pretty good on it, I have to say.
Yeah, I thank you. Yeah, but yeah, like I say, we all get older. You get to a point where you kind of got to accept that. And it's the important thing is to be healthy, especially in this day and age.
So, is there plans for another? Because I was reading on, I don't know if it's your Facebook page or something. There might be another photo book.
Yeah, no. My original plan with the Postcards of the Road is for there to be 3 volumes.
Right.
I've got all the photos for the next volume and probably 2/3 of the following one. But it's just time, really. My priority is the Marillion album and finishing my next solo album in my free time, and then maybe sometime next year I will try and get the next book together. But I've still got a few copies of the first volume. But I mean, people are loving it. But it's a big, heavy thing, and I think the shipping costs are almost as much as the book. If you're sending it.
Oh yeah, I know. I bought. Sorry to bang on about Kiss again. I bought Lydia Criss, who was Peter Criss's wife. Obviously, no one ever saw Kiss without her makeup in the 70s. And because she was obviously married to them, she was taking photographs of them all the time that weren't allowed to be published until makeup came off. And she did this photographic book. And the shipping was twice at the cost of the book.
Yeah.
I mean, the book was fairly expensive. So in the end, I got it shipped to my hotel when I was out at NAMM. Shoved it in my suitcase and brought it back.
Yeah.
Because the shipping was like $100.
My book's available on Amazon now, so I think they sold a few more copies because obviously their shipping costs are a lot less. But it is a problem if you're trying to do something that's like a proper coffee table book. I think I didn't do it to make money. I did it because I just thought this would be interesting for the fans, and the people who bought it love it. So
I think we're in an age now where the thing that really sells is the behind the scenes stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. There's photos, all the press shots and the official photography shots everywhere. But having something that's like a peek behind the curtain is a lot more real and a lot more interesting, and tells you a lot more about the personalities of the people involved.
Yeah, I think that's what people like. I mean, it's part of the reason why we're doing this, really. Yeah. It's I have people ask me all the time what I do all year round, and it's like nothing at all. The event just happens. I just rock up in February, and it's all built. It's brilliant.
Yeah, it's all done.
Yeah, there's no marketing. Nothing happens. But so it was some of it was to try and sort of like just show what happens behind the scenes. Really.
Yeah.
One of the things we do when we put the podcast out is we do a Spotify playlist to accompany it. So we put a little 5-track. It is 5 tracks, isn't it? 5-track playlist together, and we pick various things through, from the people we've spoken to, and we'd already said that we were going to put a Wishing Tree track on there, and I was thinking,
Evergreen.
I'd like to go with Evergreen. Yeah, I really like Evergreen.
Yeah, Evergreen or Midnight Snow would probably be my choice from Carnival.
Right. Okay. Well, right. Okay. Well, and then we thought we'd put the new tune on, the new track on.
Yeah, let's see it. Yeah,
and we'll pick something from Ghosts.
Yeah, maybe sort of Morpheus or Old Man.
Yeah. Which then leads us to the question I'm going to ask next. So, can you pick 2 Marillion tracks to put on that Spotify playlist?
Yeah. I can. Afraid of Sunlight and The Great Escape.
Right, written those
I
down.
thought that might take longer than that.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because you know my favourite solo of yours is from Strange Engine. So
Yeah, that's a long song, though.
It's a long song for them to get. Yeah, but it's a high point when you get there.
Yeah, no,
But
it is. I agree. It's another one of my make it up on the spot and hope somebody records it solos. Yeah, a lot of my best solos. Well, nearly everything I do is improvised, and the band have learnt over the years just to record everything I do in case I do something good. And when I do, I then have to go away and learn it, which is what happened with the Strange Engine solo and the Easter solo. It just happens in the moment, really.
So do you just sort of blank your mind and just go for it?
Yeah, I just try not to play the obvious thing, and I try and surprise myself. So, I have kind of like a rough framework of the key and the notes and the scale, but then within that, I try not to do the obvious thing. And one of the things I try and do, I suppose, is have little pauses in the phrasing, so it's kind of more like a wind instrument sometimes. Gives it a more lyrical quality. And bending and vibrato is a very important part of what I do. So you just try and put it together and try to make it move around. And then quite often it works.
Have you seen the YouTube channel that's called Wings of Pegasus?
No.
I've watched quite a few of this guy's videos. He just I don't know who he is. Just a guy with a YouTube channel who talks about a player of a video sort of thing and kind of analyses their playing. And I ended up this afternoon, God, don't tell my bosses at BIM, with this on the computer, and he was talking about how important your phrasing is and your vibrato.
Okay.
And it was what was it called? An analysis masterclass of Steve Rothery. So I was like transfixed for about 15 minutes. So you should check that out.
Okay, I will do. Wings of Pegasus, you say?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's one of those things that I just wonder whether sometimes that when people are analysing, if you don't know them, they're analysing what you've played, and you're in your head, you're going, no, it wasn't like that at all. No, I literally just made that up on the spot.
Yeah, that's pretty much. Yeah, that's how I go. Something like Neverland, there's like one phrase, and okay, well, this is going to happen so many times. How can you make this interesting? Okay, well, first of all, you make it as intense as possible. Then you try and have places that you go within the context of that. It's a challenge sometimes. But usually what you do is trying to get something that encapsulates the emotion of the lyrics. And sometimes it's like a case of weaving a melody around the vocal melody, so it supports it and enhances it, but it doesn't fight it. And I think that's one of the things that I really try and do. Things like, let's say, I picked out Great Escape. There's some similar sections of that in the last of you and at the end section that it's like a little dance that the guitar does around the vocals that I don't hear many other people doing that really. So hurrah for me.
Very good.
One question I'd like to ask: we when we recorded quite a lot of these in the first stages of lockdown, and when we did that, and we ended up doing sort of 6 or 7 in really short succession, and we put together a little quick fire round of questions that we asked people, and we kind of knocked that on the head. As we kind of came out of lockdown, hoping that the world was going to get more normal, we kind of knocked that thing on the head. But there's one of those questions I'd like to ask you, which is if you could pick 3 people to have dinner with, who would you pick? Live or dead? Not. You can go as far back as you like.
3 people to have dinner with. Joni Mitchell, Dave Gilmour, and Neil Armstrong.
Tying with the new Space album. I like what you did there.
Yeah. Well, no, see, I have a big love of space, and obviously Neil is such an icon. But I'm very fortunate to be a good friend of both his sons, Mark and Rick. In fact, if you see the Lucia video, Rick's playing bass when we were playing live up at the La Sierra Observatory in Chile last summer. And thanks to Rick, I got to meet, various other people in the space industry. So yeah, it's. I've got a lot of friends actually in the European Space Agency, the European Southern Observatory, and people that I've met through Rick. Really,
that's weird. Thinking about it, my friends that were big Marillion fans when we were, school, and sorry to the age thing, but when we were at school and they were big Marillion fans, all went on to do degrees in physics. I wonder if there's some kind of tie up between Marillion fans and heavyweight, sort of subjects.
Yeah, maybe I suppose that shows that we're maybe we're some way appeal to people who want something a bit more adventurous, maybe, or something they have to digest.
There are exceptions.
Yeah, well,
yeah. Sorry, yeah.
There are exceptions. You also appeal to quite shallow Sheffield United supporters as well. So there are definite exceptions. So just to bring it back round to almost how we started, really. So the solo project, the Inspired by Space solo project, the first sort of tunes, the first single's out, isn't it? And you can hear that already. And I think we'll put that on we'll put the version that, because I think that I don't know if there's two versions or not, but we'll put the one that's currently on Spotify. We'll put that.
Yeah, there's a full length version which is on Spotify, or there's a video for the first 2/3 of the song that's on YouTube. Including a 4K version, which looks pretty amazing.
Yeah, and some of that footage is spectacular.
Oh yeah, we took a couple of drones there to film the live performance. We have various other cameras, and some of it is the ESO footage that they let us use. And that's the amazing thing is that's probably the least spectacular of the 3 videos that we're going to make. I mean, the next track that I've just about to finish is called Moonrise over Paranal, and Paranal is an observatory. With 6 huge telescopes, one of which fires laser beams up into the sky. It looks like the Death Star, but it's to measure the atmospheric distortion. And underneath this main dish, there's a series of tiny little mirrors that are controlled by the computer. So any distortion caused by the atmosphere is compensated for by the mirrors, which increases the resolution of the image. And these things are sort of detecting planets from around far off systems, and all cutting edge science. So yeah, that was an incredible place. I've been there 3 times now, and then Alma, which is like a forest of giant radio telescopes up at 5,000 meters. And they were one of the observatories that was responsible for that imaging of the black hole. Whenever that was now, 6 months or so ago. So yeah, I mean, it's incredible science at these places and really inspirational. I was talking to one of the scientists there, who's a lot of musicians again at these places, and this guy was telling me how they detected in the interstellar gas the elements for sugar and alcohol. So it's a universal, you see.
Brilliant.
And so the crowdfund for that's going to go live in September.
Yeah, the end of September, with a release sometime that doesn't clash with Marillion in 2021.
Yeah, okay. And the best place to go and find that information, we'll put a link on the show notes, but that's your website, is it?
Yeah, my website, steverothery.com. There's a mailing list there for anyone that's interested. And I'm going to do various versions of the album, like I did the Kickstarter campaign for the Pripyat album. There'll be just a download. There'll be a standard edition, a special edition, and probably like an ultra edition with like a photo book, maybe, and surround sound mixers, Blu-rays, etc. So that's the kind of plan at the moment.
And you said there's Steve Rothery band. Is it a DVD that's coming?
Yeah. There's a DVD coming from our shows a few years ago at the Islington Assembly Rooms. So that should be out before Christmas. And I've got various other things that I'll probably try and find a way of releasing. Lots of live stuff from various places around the world, SRB shows. But that's kind of like further on down the road, really.
And where would you direct people to keep tabs on you? Is your Facebook? Is that the best place?
Yeah. But my two Facebook profiles. Probably the best one is to follow my personal profile because that's the one I tend to use the most. And then the steverothery.com thing to be on the mailing list to hear about anything special that's happening.
Yeah, because what we find with a lot of people we speak to is they tend to be active. They might be across a number of platforms, but there's one they tend to be active on.
Yeah,
and I've noticed with you it tends to be Facebook.
I've not really embraced Twitter or even Instagram to that degree yet, which I probably should do. But I'm too busy making music, I suppose.
And don't stop doing that. From a personal point of view, that's kind of where I like you.
Yeah, that should be my priority.
Yeah, if you want to chain yourself to that particular space you're in at the moment, then that's absolutely fine.
Absolutely.
Fine with me. I'll organise some Deliveroo for you. If that's. Do you know what? We're just about to clock over into an hour, according to the clock at the bottom of the.
Is that from the first interview or just this one?
No, because he wasn't recording at the start, was he? So we're actually sort of an hour and 15 minutes or something.
Sorry about that.
Thank you very much, both of you, for waiting. That was revenge. That was best served cold, wasn't it? You waited a full hour, didn't you, before you got in? Steve, thank you very much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully, we'll chat again when the album's about to come out, and hopefully we can do it face to face over a beer or something.
Sounds good.
That's fantastic. Right, well, I shall wrap it up. Do you know what, Jace? We normally top and tail these things, but I think we'll just wrap this one here and now, shall we?
Absolutely, mate. We're running up with this at the moment, aren't we? Just go live; it'll be fine.
Right, we're going to go with whatever we've got. Whatever they got. Right. Okay. Well, thanks everybody. Speak soon. Thanks for listening, and please subscribe and everything if you don't subscribe. And we'll speak to you all very soon. Cheers.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening to 9 to 42, the podcast from the team at the Guitar Show UK. If you've enjoyed the show, then please remember to hit the subscribe button and share with other like-minded souls. For more information about 9 to 42, please follow us on Facebook, Twitter or Instagram at the Guitar Show UK. This has been an A Short Stories production.